The tropics is officially out of its hibernation. 5 disturbances. Yes, you heard me right. 5 disturbances to talk about in this update, and so I will be delving into what is happening, the latest from NHC, but the main one I want to focus on is the one in the Caribbean. It is currently impacting some islands and will continue to do so for some time, and even though there is some uncertainty down the road, there are some areas, Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, Jamaica, should keep watch, and so I will be taking you guys through all of that, so stick with me in this update. And before I do so, please do subscribe if you haven't done so already, and tap the bell so that you never miss an important update. And so guys, we're kickstarting things looking at this outlook from the National Hurricane Center. And by the way, this is not the 2 p.m. outlook. It was updated yet again because a special outlook had to be issued for Invest 99L. So we're going to be looking at all of these systems, but we're going to focus on 90L. The formation chance is also bumped up for that disturbance to develop over the next couple of days, and it is an imminent threat to land. It has been producing a lot of heavy rainfall and will continue to do so, and other areas could face even worse impacts. And so we're going to be looking at all of what is happening right now. As we go on to these satellite imagery here, we can see that there is a lot out there. We have our new tropical wave, which is now marked, and then there is 98L, 99L, 90L, and then that system going to be making its way into the Gulf, which should eventually become Invest 91L. And let's look at them individually. So we're starting out with the system off the coast of Africa, newly identified, and models were showing this developing just as I pointed out in this morning's update when I spoke about the potential of seeing something else develop off the coast of Africa, potential hurricane. And here we now have the National Hurricane Center highlighting this area, this new tropical wave here. So it should move to the west-northwest over the next couple of days. Let's see what's going to be happening with it. But aside from the Cabo Verde Islands, which might experience some periods of heavy rainfall, there is nowhere else that's currently going to be impacted by this. So I'm not going to be focusing on this too much for right now, but I will still be giving you guys the necessary updates as we head to 98L, still given that 70% chance to develop. So this system here has been loitering out there, and conditions are going to get more unfavorable. So it has some limited time to try to develop, but it doesn't seem as though it's taking advantage of those conditions, those conducive conditions right now. Let's continue on to the west, and now we're looking at 98L. It's made a marvelous comeback, and here we're seeing that the chance has risen to 70%. So this is resilience right here. This disturbance, it seems as though it could briefly become a tropical depression, maybe even a tropical storm. I wouldn't be surprised if 99L rather becomes Emily. So let's see what's going to be happening with it. It could eventually make its way close to the northeastern islands of the Caribbean. There is still some uncertainty with regards to where exactly this will go, but it might make its way close. But I'll keep you guys posted on that. And if you're curious about how it's looking on satellite, we're going to go on to that very shortly. Now we're heading into the Caribbean, where there has been a lot of heavy rainfall for some spots, especially over in the eastern islands, going from Trinidad all the way up into areas such as even Guadeloupe. There's likely been some heavy rainfall, but let me know for sure in the comments what has been happening for your area, say your country, as well as what conditions have been like. Has there been any flooding, landslides, mudslides? Let me know in the comments, because I know that there's a lot of activity in the area right now. And so this should move generally toward the west for some time, and tracks are showing that this might take a turn up to the north. We'll be looking at that in some more depth very shortly. Now we're going on to our next disturbance, or final disturbance, which is located in the vicinity of the Bahamas, Cuba, and so this is going to continue to the west-northwest, making its way into the Gulf of Mexico, where we could see some development of it, and eventually it should make its way inland, possibly into southern Texas and northeastern Mexico. So now we're going back to the satellite imagery of these systems, and we want to focus on the ones further to the west. So we're heading to the vicinity of the Caribbean, and we also see Invest 99L right there. We can see that blob. So lots of showers and thunderstorms have developed this afternoon, and here we can see that it is looking a lot more impressive compared to this morning. Definitely wants to take advantage of the opportunity to become a named system. So this could become Emily, and the next couple of names after Emily: Franklin, Gert, Harold. Let's see if we're gonna have most of these developing, but it certainly looks possible. So lots of of showers and thunderstorms, as I said, across most islands of the southeast, likely some periods of heavy rainfall. So talking about Trinidad, Tobago, Grenada, the Grenadines, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, heading to Martinique, Dominica, even into Guadeloupe, there has likely been some activity, and of course Barbados. And then eventually, as the system continues toward the west, the ABC Islands could experience some increased rainfall activity as well. I know that would be very much appreciated. It has been pretty hot and dry in the area. Across northern South America, we can see that there's also a lot of showers and thunderstorms developing. But go into the northern Leeward Islands and also for Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, even across some spots in Hispaniola, the Turks and Caicos Islands, parts of the southern Bahamas, there hasn't been a whole lot of activity taking place through today. So we're going to come back to our disturbance here, but we want to look at the satellites a bit further toward the west. We're heading to the Northwest Caribbean, the Gulf, and here we can see that in the vicinity of the Bahamas, there is a lot of showers and thunderstorms. So all of this is in association with the disturbance there. And as I mentioned, as I even highlighted on my thumbnail for this morning's update, there would be some periods of heavy rainfall across some parts of Florida, the Bahamas, Cuba, even in Jamaica. And that is exactly what we're seeing happening this afternoon, even over into the Yucatan. And for the Cayman Islands, we can see that there is some thunderstorm development as well. But for most of Central America, there isn't anything too crazy going on. We see more activity heading into especially Nicaragua, going down into parts of Panama as well. And so now let's go ahead and talk about the conditions ahead of our disturbance 90L in the Caribbean. So we're looking at the wind shear map, and these areas of reds, they indicate unfavorable shear. Meanwhile, the yellow means neutral, the green means favorable. So it's when we see a lot of those green lines, that is representative that, hey, the upper level winds are not too much of a problem. They aren't a big deal right now for the system. They're not going to be impactful to the point where they prevent development. So there we have our disturbance right there. We have the Lesser Antilles right within that region there. We can see that there is some favorable shear. So that should enable some intensification. Things should get a bit more conducive as we head into next week, and eventually we could see this becoming our next named cyclone. Even if it doesn't, it could still produce a lot of heavy rainfall for some spots. And looking at the dry air map now, we can see that that isn't a problem either, because it is in a region that is generally moist. So that is why those thunderstorms are kind of thriving right now. There isn't a whole lot of dry air infiltration. Most of that is to the north of the system. We can see that there's a lot of it around our invests 98 and 99L, though that tropical wave coming off Africa could be in some conducive conditions and gradually develop over the next couple of days. Now going on to some model data in terms of the intensity of 90L or Caribbean disturbance, we can see here that most of these lines, they go into that green area. A couple of them want to take it at hurricane intensity, which isn't impossible, but I think that it has a good shot at becoming a tropical storm. So most models that are available are expecting it to become a tropical storm. And so just as I'm in the middle of this is an update from the National Hurricane Center. Tropical Depression 6 has now developed. So aside from the fact that Invest 99L has intensified into a depression, much hasn't changed about it. So we see that. Let's go on to that map right now. And here we can see that it has maximum sustained winds of 35 miles per hour. Again, I wouldn't be too surprised if it manages to reach tropical storm status, but it is in a region that is sheared right now. So that is going to pose a problem for it. Much intensification not expected at all. And then whatever is left of it is going to continue toward the west-northwest as we head into the early part of this week. So that's the update here on now Tropical Depression 6. And let's go ahead and return to the model intensity guidance for Invest 90L. So again, a bit of diversion right there, but we're heading back to our Caribbean disturbance. So most of these models here expecting that it will intensify into a tropical storm. And then in terms of the track of it, here we can see, by the way, if you're hearing some background noise, that is some thunder. So my area is experiencing some thunderstorms right now. So in terms of the model track guidance, there are quite a bit of models available now. And earlier they were showing more of a westward track. The ones that were available were showing more of a westward track. But now we're seeing that they're kind of in more of an agreement that, hey, this is going to be making that curve up to the north. north through Hispaniola, but we see that there's some dispersion right here because there is no certainty at this point in time. The longer it takes to make that turn, the further to the west it is going to move, and this is to track the center of it. It does not show the size, so even though the center might be passing over the Dominican Republic, areas as far as the Bahamas, Cuba, even Jamaica could be experiencing some periods of heavy rainfall. So guys, as time goes by, I'm gonna be keeping you posted. There's so much going on, and I'm really excited to track all this activity and keep you guys updated. So stay tuned for the next update tomorrow morning. I will be posting quite early, and so that is pretty much it for right now, and I hope you found this video to be quite informative. But if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll respond once I get the chance to. And as always, remember to be weatherwise.